Tom Production, the original party animal, presents Fancy First Friday. Every first Friday at Giovanni's Italian Restaurant. Every first Friday, we turning this city up with the best nightlife party in the century. It all goes down at Giovanni Italian Restaurant, 9 p.m. till 2 a.m. Enjoy a full cigar lounge on the patio, the 360 photo booth, and the best DJ in the country, DJ AA rocking the set. Oh, we finna party. Dress code strictly enforced. No athletic wear or no sneakers. It's the first party of the month you can't miss. It's just a Tom production. It's Fancy First Friday. Every first Friday at Giovanni's Italian Restaurant, 3531 DeWitt Lane, 9 p.m. till 2 a.m. Oh, we turning the city up. Get your limited $20 early bird ticket and VIP tables on sale now at fancyfirstfridays.eventbrite.com or call 980-643-0908.
Pedal gently, heaven sent me. Evidently ain't no proving up is prospering against me. They gon' tempt me. I ain't waking from a dream by any means. You better hinge me. You can't change my mind, resettle yet. Convince me. Don't believe us. Diamond called the slickest off the said he need us. They just tried to bring in Jesus to defeat like orthopedics. I'ma lead ya, dripped in the mortal sauce and see I'm water walking. And now you follow. I'm awesome and doing all.
Welcome to another episode of Connected Dots. I'm your host, Lou Icewater, aka Duquan Hicks. As we get started, and this is going to be very controversial, one of my most controversial episodes, so peep in and listen and check out and take notes. This is a look at you. Camera, look at you moment, all right? Excuse the grays when I'm getting old. That's what we do, all right? The reason why I'm going to talk about this is because I want people to understand the eye openers that's going on. The eye openers. What do I mean by eye openers? You have to understand that in the society, in the world that we call pro football, this is the only sport that is still run like a slave plantation. Why do I say this? Because you have a lot of owners who are old, 65, 70, 75 years old, and they still run their organization like it's the 1960s. So, with that being said, it's just like you have to know how to play the game. If you don't know how to play the game, you will always lose, no matter who you are. And as you can see, this guy, he got drafted. Congratulations. But it wasn't to where he was going to be. It wasn't in the top 4. It wasn't in the first round, second, third, fourth. Whatever the case may be, you got drafted. So hang your hat on that. But my thing is this. The NFL is changing everything. That's why it's called the No Fun League. And people have to start understanding you have to follow these codes. If you don't follow the code of the NFL or you don't follow the codes, you will never achieve anything, no matter who you are. They want to make this clear to the Sanders family that the Sanders is not bigger than football. Regardless of the situation, you're not bigger than the organizations, and they wanted to make an example. Look what they did with Des Bryant. Look what they did to Antonio Brown. All the football players that was acting crazy. If you go against the NFL, they're always going to make an example of you, and they're going to show you how they really feel about you. You can win all the Walter Payton Man of the Year awards, but if you mess up and do one thing wrong, they're going to show you. Look what they did with Ray Rice. Regardless if he made a mistake or what he did, but he should have been allowed to come back after a year or two. All I'm saying is, you will never win in the NFL unless you do the things that you're supposed to do, or unless this new generation we call X decides, you know what, we're bigger than the NFL, let's go on strike. in the 80s, that's what they did. They went on strike. Because remember, the owners pay you, but y'all are the stars. And nothing can go right without the stars. So I want to see. I don't want to hear all this talk about he should have did this, he's blackballed and blah, 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 blah. Freak all the talking. What are you going to do? That is my main concern. That part. What are you going to do? This happened to a colleague or a player or an athlete. So now I want to see what y'all going to do. Are you going to bring this up in the NFL meetings? Are you going to form a strike? Are you going to do something? What is going to be done? Because if it ain't nothing being done, why are we talking about it? Why are we talking about it if nothing's going to be done? And then secondly, it's not just the owner's fault. It's the dad's fault as well. And this is his fault as well, as they have to take the blame too. You have to understand, when you work for any type of corporation, you have to follow procedures and guidelines. If you don't follow these procedures and guidelines, like any corporation, you get terminated. And they wanted to show that you're not bigger than the brand. And they wanted to show that to you, and now they're showing it to everyone else who comes up later on down the NFL lines. You have to be a professional before you become a professional. What I mean by that is, you wasn't even drafted yet, and you was acting like you was already on the team. You can't do that. I don't care if your last name is Sanders or whatever it may be. My thing is, I'm not hating against the Sanders. I want them to understand that in business, you have to play by the rules. And I want the young man to succeed. I want him to do well. I want to show the owners that they messed up. But my thing is, I don't want to hear the talk. Now it's about the action. Now you have to prove to everybody else that they made a mistake, because if you become a flop, then it makes this situation even worse. So you have to understand, everybody's talking about the character. That's true, but also look at the stats. Who did he really beat in college? Did he play an SEC team? No. A Big Ten team? No. An ACC team? No. So you have to look at that situation. Did he take them to a college playoff game? No. So if you haven't done none of those things, why would I be all jumping in the air for you? I'm happy that any black man makes it. And I'm not hating on no black man. I want every black man to succeed. But you do it with humility. You do it with integrity. And when you go to combines, you show people who you are. You don't just go there and sit there and watch like you're watching a movie. So your bad advice that you was getting hurt you in the end. So now learn from Lamar, learn from the Ball's father, learn from John Morant's father. They were all up in the business, and guess what happened? Something happened to get it toned down. So fathers, I want to tell you something. It's okay to be in your kid's life, but after a certain time, you sit back and fall back and let them make mistakes on their own. Because if you don't, the world will eat you up. They will use you to mess him up. You get what I'm saying? So black fathers, remember, if your kid makes it or your daughter makes it, learn to fall back and let him make his mistakes on his own. Because now you made it worse. Then they say, well, look what the Mannings. Hold up. Eli and Peyton Manning wasn't playing football with a watch on. They wasn't talking crazy. It was just the father. And all the father said was, my son ain't playing there. He wasn't saying, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That's the problem. I want people to understand. We as black people mess up our own selves. We can't get out of our own way. Now, you saying that, but it's true. And the truth hurts. So all I got to say is now I want him to exceed and show everybody, prove to everybody that they were wrong. But if you flop, they win. Having a chip on your shoulder is the greatest thing that you can have. But now it's time for you to cut it out, become a man, and show everybody what you're really made of. And that's the last. I'm going to talk about it until I do sports. Next time, I'm going to break down the whole draft. But I just had to break that down to you guys, all right? That's how I feel. Comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. I love to hear comments. I love to hear negative comments, positive comments. It doesn't matter. As long as it's a comment, all right? So let's talk about NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. The reason why I want to talk about this is because these NDAs are not really used for good. People say they're good. No, they're not. Because first of all, NDAs started in 1940, and it was for marital reasons. You know what I'm saying? To protect the marriage, to protect what's going on. Then it became popular in the 1980s when people started having companies and businesses and they didn't want people to learn these secrets. Now all of a sudden sports has this NDA. To me, it's just a bad look because now a lot of people can do stuff behind closed doors and you can't say anything. And guess what, America? The music business might start having these NDAs. Now that people coming out saying this and saying that, everything might become an NDA. So to me, I don't like the term NDA because it's a non-disclosure agreement, but to me, it feels like you're hiding something. You're hiding something in order to have an NDA. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I have a logo, so I have to protect my logo, okay? But I'm doing it the right way. And so to me, an NDA, it just seems like it's bad business all the way around. And I hate that sports has become more about politics than the sport, the game itself. This is what I'm talking about, America. What happened with him was about sports. It was more about politics. So when you throw politics in sports, this is what you get. This is what happens. The game is messed up. The game is rigged. Whatever you call it, whatever you per se. But NDAs are not good at all. And I think before you get an NDA, I think you should really, really need to read the contract of an NDA. You really need to read up on it and read why it is an NDA. Because to me, I just don't like how it is or how it became an NDA. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I told you before, and I told you again, America, as I get older, I use paper. And it ain't nothing wrong with using paper. It ain't nothing wrong with using paper. I'm an older guy. I look young, but hey, I use paper. You know what I mean? So I'm going to talk about Math Hoffa for a minute. But I'm going to talk about the good of Math Hoffa. Everybody is screwing him and talking bad about him. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about the good of Math Hoffa, meaning the show itself. This was one of the podcasts besides Drinks Champs and, of course, the Fat Joe podcast that made me want to get into podcasting, even though I was already in communications. But this was one of the shows that really made me look at life differently. He had great interviews. You know what I'm saying? MEO, that's what they call it. Great interviews on that show. From all-time great rappers, producers, stories that was great. Everybody's looking at the fallout. The people, he's not a great businessman. And, they're looking at, the fallout with the co-workers and yada, yada, yada. I'm not looking at all of that. I'll let y'all talk about that. I'm looking at the performance-wise. It was a great show with great knowledge. And I think he deserves his flowers for the run that he had because it was really a good show. I was watching, especially when you had my man Mike Geronimo on there. Shout out to Mike Geronimo, family. Royal Flush, that's family right there. Family. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is, Math Hoffa, you deserve the flowers because you had a team and you did what you had to do. And I understand that things happen in the business world, and I'm going to talk about that next. But like I said, you build your brand, you can build it back up again, but be smarter the next time you build your brand, and be smarter on, who you lease to. Other than that, man, brother, salute. I salute you because you had a great platform. Great platform, brother. Salute. So now I want to talk about, commercial leasing. And this is the thing that people get wrong. You have a subleasee, leaser, whatever it may be. When you're doing something like this, the best thing you need to do is have a lawyer present. Have a lawyer present when you're leasing anything. Let that lawyer read over, because sometimes there's something in that fine print that you're not seeing or missing. You see what I'm saying? People like to run game on people thinking that you know the game, but we really don't. So if you're leasing anything, like a building or whatever, take it by a lawyer and let him look at it, because there's always a clause in the situation. There's always a stipulation that we overlook. You know what I'm saying? And I hate the fact that people are so nasty and doing dirty work to other people who are trying to make something out of themselves. So the thing about black people, about us, we don't read. We see the money, we see the fine print, we sign, but we don't read the disclosure of the contract. This is why a lot of us fail, because we don't read. So you don't want to read, you get a lawyer. Let the lawyer look at the paperwork. Say, look, let me bring my lawyer in first. I'm going to let him look at it. And if everything is legit, then I'll sign this contract, or I'll sign this lease, especially if it's a business lease. Anytime you do any type of business, you need a lawyer present, or you bring it to your lawyer to make sure that everything is good. Everything is good. And like I said, that woke me up. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm in the midst of doing something, and that right there woke me up. You know what I mean? So my last thing I want to talk about, boring individuals. I remember people who called me boring back in the day. Some people might call me boring now. That's okay. That's okay. All I have to say is, them boring individuals are the ones that are going to succeed in life, or they already succeeded. I'm telling you, stop overlooking the boring. The boring individuals who probably did almost everything that you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying? He's boring. Yeah, boring is good sometimes. I'm not saying be bored every day, but be bored most of your life. And it depends on what you call boring. You see what I'm saying? Because some people have a different take on being bored or boring. Just because I stay home all the time, does it make me boring? Or does it make me I'm bored? It's because I've been in the street and I've seen everything, and the streets don't have nothing to offer. They don't have nothing to offer anymore. I want people to understand that. You know what I mean? Like, I want people to understand that boring sometimes is great. It's great to be boring. For real. So if somebody is boring, follow them. Because those boring people are going to live for a while. It's the ones out here who think they're doing something, the ones that's going to keep asking, yo, can I get 20? Yo, I'm getting gas money. Yo, I didn't pay my phone bill. Yeah, because you run in the streets chasing, street dreams, like Nas said. You know what I mean? I never understood what boring meant until I got older. I said, you know what? I don't need to be in a club anymore. I don't need to be out in the street anymore. And I'm glad I'm not out in the street anymore. I make a special appearance every now and then depending on what's going on, but I'd rather be a boring cat and living and breathing and have money saved than being a dude out here in the street trying to chase people and still asking and then wondering why you got no dough when you should. You know what I mean? Sometimes it ain't about the lifestyle, baby. It's about learning the lifestyle, learning how to live and survive in these streets. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, I'm telling you, ladies, and I'm telling you, dudes, they might be boring, but at least you know they safe. At least you know that when you come home, they there. You know what I mean? Understand that part. At least you call, they there. Instead of you calling and they ain't answering and they lying about what they doing and all that. You get what I'm saying? So boring, let's get that straight. Being bored is cool. When you get older and laid back in your lane, I'm laid back chilling. Yeah, I could be a boring person, but I'm chilling and smiling while you up here stressing out because you want to try to fit in with the microwave people. You know what I mean? So understand that being boring is not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad, Joe. All right? With that being said, this is another episode of Connected Dots. I am your host, Lou Icewater, aka Duquan Hicks, and I'm always bringing you the flavor. Check out the sports episode. I'm going to go really deep into detail with the draft and everything else that's going on in sports. But right now, like I said, never stop dreaming. Always keep believing. Trust in God and understand that life doesn't last long. All right? One life, one love, one Lou. Peace.